9 rounds down, just 1 remaining. It's been a competitive season for season number 4, 2019, for the Precision Racing League Cup Series. But tonight, the top drivers are all set to tackle one of the best mile and a half in the entire country. With the drivers and championships both locked up entering this evening, there's one goal in mind outside of winning: to have fun this evening. The question is, which driver will have the most fun tonight in Victory Lane? We're about to find out on the Global SimRacing Channel. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway for the final race of the Precision Racing League Cup Series season. Justin Prince alongside the move tonight is Christian Challenger, but behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose. He's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Now, Christian, this is a track you are very familiar with your preparation for the finale for the NASCAR Peaking and Freeze iRacing Series. But tonight, it's the final race of the season. What can you tell us about Homestead-Miami Speedway?
Well, Homestead's a mile-and-a-half circuit, but it's one of the absolute best mile-and-a-half circuits in my opinion. We have some of the best racing here. It's a really good multi-groove track, and it's just under a 31-second lap time, and tonight we're going to be doing 85 laps or 1 hour here. And now we'll head over to the lap guide to show you what it's like to get around this place.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Global SimRacing Channel. My name is Brian Yazek, and I'll be taking you for a lap or two around the Homestead-Miami Speedway. The reason I'm starting on pit road is because Homestead has a very interesting pit exit and pit entrance procedure, and I'm going to show you how each side of it works. So, without further ado, here we go. Minding the wheel spin coming out of the pits, up into second gear, coming around through the flat part, the access road. There's absolutely no banking on this part of the track. You really are holding, waiting, and waiting, and waiting. As soon as you see that grass start to clear out right there, you can go full onto the loud pedal, back down into fourth gear, and onto the back stretch. Like I said, I'm going to show you a qualifying line and a end of the run line when the tires are at their absolute worst. So without further, coming out of turn 4, underneath the start-finish line for your qualifying lap, your marker right here as you're looking for that caution light, off into the gas, ease it into the corner, back into the throttle. You're not full throttle yet, maybe half, 3/4, waiting, going, a little bit loose out of the corners. Watch out for that divot there out of turn 2. Entering turn 3, you're looking for that white line right there as your marker, and then looking for the bottom, waiting. The car is going to get very squirrely, and you're going to come out of turn 4, let it run right next to the wall, and that's your qualifying lap. Now, at the end of the run, you're going to watch a lot of people take this very high arcing corner into turn 1, looking at that seam right there at the track. You're not full throttle yet, still waiting. Now you're full throttle. And watch, minding that wall out of turn 2 and that bump out of turn 2. Entering turn 3, right where that safer barrier starts is where you're going to start letting off. Let the car find the bottom. It's still going to be extremely loose. This way, you're just going to let it drift up to the wall, and then out of turn 4, watching that wall again. And there we are. Coming out of the backstretch right now, looking for your mark. Here's where it's going to get tricky, because you've got to slow down from 190 miles an hour down into third gear, running on this access road, trying to find grip. The car doesn't want to grip. The tires are hot, slick. You're coming through here, the grass ends, you can kind of get a little more aggressive, down into second gear, and onto pit road. And that completes your track guide at Homestead-Miami Speedway.
That was a look at your GSRC lap guide, showing the best way to get around Homestead-Miami Speedway. Now let's take a look at the championship standings, first with the Drivers' Championship. As mentioned, Bradley Holly mathematically locked himself the championship for the season. He has a 43-point advantage entering tonight. Him and Rob Haynes, however, are not currently entered for this evening's event. Haynes with a strong effort despite missing round number 1. Charles Sumner's in third with Rachel Hunt inside the top 5 in points. Colton Lane rounds out the top 5 of the standings. Those drivers separated by 86 points. The last 2 drivers came with the victories. The team championship also in mathematical lock at the moment, with Waterback Fun Center on top of the standings by 134 points after having one of the highest point totals of the entire season as a collective unit. at Phoenix. Redline Racing is up to second. Quarterback Ramrod, though, is in a potential fight for that spot, as they are currently just about a few points behind. Team 24/7 and Hard Knocks West ran out the top 5. Hard Knocks North, Team Zero Racing, Hard Knocks South, and GSRC Motorsports round out the teams that have entered races this season and are part of the championship. Now, Christian, this is the last race of the season. Let's take a look at those race details.
Yeah, so tonight we've got fixed setups as usual in this league. Got a 13-point incident cap. I don't suspect we'll have any issues with that tonight. We've only got about 15 cars out there right now, and as we're saying, multi-groove track, so hopefully a lot of passing and a lot of clean racing. And with 100% fuel, I think we'll only see one green flag stop tonight, so it should be a fairly conventional race from that standpoint.
Yeah, fairly simple strategy, but it's also a very difficult race. But before we discuss what to expect for tonight's race, and before qualifying, we'd like to remind you that the Global SimRacing Channel now has its own merchandise store. Fans and supporters of GSRC can now buy items such as a brand new GSRC split shirt. The split shirt helps you show your racing friends that you have two sides to your personality. One that shows that you have the ability to be soft and gentle, like a marshmallow. The other shows you can become red hot, like a chili pepper. For more details on items such as these, visit gsrc.storenvy.com. Such a beautiful looking shirt, such a beautiful facility here in Miami and this entire region in Florida. It should be a competitive race. Let's talk about what to expect for the race, because it was a fairly interesting one for the Peak Series and a fairly interesting one in real life today.
Yeah, and I think with those races, we saw them run into the dark, and that kind of changed things up a little bit. This race is a bit shorter. It's only an hour maximum in length, so that's going to come into play a little bit less. The track is going to get colder, so if we see people struggling near the beginning, they might kind of come into their own later on with a little bit more grip. I think really the standout has got to be Rachel Hunt. She's been really fast pretty much all season, and has really been one of the main contenders, and especially without Holly and Haynes here, I think it's got to be her race to lose.
Don't forget, though, Colton Lane is also in the event tonight in the 60 machine. He is second in the practice board. As you see those on the left side of your screen, Paul Williams the second, Dennis Cervantes and Brendan Chatley round out the current top 5. We're about to start off qualifying, and it says these drivers get ready for the qualifying session. Track position could be important because we've talked so much about dirty air on, especially with this new draft package. It is a bit of a factor here at Homestead-Miami, where it could make it tough to pass after 10 laps.
Yeah, and we were talking a little bit before we came on air about how in turns 3 and 4 it can tighten up quite a bit, and I was just watching some of the cars out there in practice, and it looked like they were suffering with that, especially towards the exit of 4, so you really don't want to be back in the pack. There is multiple lanes here, so it is a little bit easier than other mile-and-a-halfs to kind of get a pass going, but as with every track with this aero package, if you can avoid being in the pack, it's definitely an advantage to be out front.
Something that could be an advantage in this qualifying too, the fact that there's a cloud above the sky. Let's take a look at the weather conditions as we start qualifying the final round of the season. The track temp has actually dipped 2 degrees from the end of the practice session to 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Partly close to partly cloudy skies, 78 degrees Fahrenheit is the air temp, but as noted, it is a late start. We've actually moved up an hour local time inside the sim to 6:15, as we'll be racing towards dusk here at this racetrack. The wind currently 2 miles an hour. That is currently facing towards the backstretch fencing, as the humidity about 55% today here, Christian.
Yeah, and I don't really think the wind speed is going to be much of a factor. 2 miles an hour is pretty low around here, but definitely the cooler track is going to give them a little bit more grip, and it should make the qualifying a little bit easier for these guys, especially with the really hot track and the fixed setup. You do kind of have to lift a little bit at the 3 and 4 end. With this colder track temperature, you should be able to avoid that.
First times are up on the board. You see them on the left side of your screen. Danny Cervantes actually on top of the board and stomping on the track. He's happy with his current best time of a 37.50. Colton Lane got within 2/1000 of a second, while you're following along with Charles Sumner along with Barry Hilton. What will Barry do? He can't improve on that, but Paul Williams II takes the provisional pole with a 37.16.
Yeah, it looked like he had a pretty good lap there, and he's actually going for a second. I'm wondering if maybe he's going to get a little bit more speed. It can kind of be a bit of a crossover at a lot of tracks if there's a little bit of lifting going on in 3 and 4, because you get that extra speed down into 1 on the second lap, but a little bit less tire grip at the other end of the track.
A 31 flat, by the way, for Sumner on his first lap. Here's to see what the 98 machine does. That puts him dead last on the qualifying sheet. Let's see if we can head towards this direction. He's coming through turns 3 and 4 right now. Built a decent amount of speed. Had a little bit of a slip and actually taps the wall. He's going to have to start towards the back of the field because that hits the fence in turn 4.
Yeah, that's definitely going to hurt. He's in a little bit of a points battle, so not what he wants. But on the positive side of things, there's a few less cars than normal tonight, so it's not as big a penalty as it could have been.
Yeah, the track position with this package is so critical, but with just 15 drivers, there's not a lot of cars to have to pass. That could be a positive if we were some of the drivers. Cars like Chatley, amongst the drivers trying to qualify, 30.826. Others are ducking down the pit lane. Rachel Hunt is starting to build up speed for her first lap, while Hunter's coming around for the end of his second. Interesting note, with these colder track temperatures, you talked about it a little bit with the less grip in 3 and 4, compared to what we've seen in some of the races in official iRacing events throughout the entire week. You would pick up to 2 seconds in qualifying at lap 2. We haven't seen that tonight. Most drivers have lost time on their second laps.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has got to come from the fixed setup. I think the only guy who really made any gain actually was Paul Williams, and even that was slight. It looks kind of like the second lap is rather equal than either better or worse. But you do have to hook it up, and it is going to be slightly more tricky, especially having a little bit less grip in 3 and 4.
Danny Cervantes, again, is still in second spot. He was the first qualifier. Pat Harvey up to 7th position. The lowest qualifier is still Charles Sumner. 5 drivers yet to qualify. Zemke, Roberts, Catalina, Bishaw. Now, here comes Rachel Hunt for her last attempt. This time at 39.17. That is a 10th off of her first lap attempt. So 4 drivers are yet to record official times. None of those drivers are on the circuit at the moment. Should note, Robert Bashad Jr. not allowed to qualify tonight due to reaching a limit up to caution points. He'll have to start at the back of the grid. Taking a look now at Dan McLaren as he comes around the racetrack. He's going to run out of time. As let's take a look at your starting grid. 11 drivers recorded official times out of 15 starters for this evening's season finale. Paul Williams II gets the pole, along with the 2 bonus points. He'll start alongside Danny Cervantes in row number 1. Colton Lane, he's looking to wrap up a decent season in the 60 machine. He'll start in 3rd. Barrett Hilton starts in the 4th position with Rachel Hunt rounding out the top 5. Remember, she was the quickest in practice in her Toyota Camry. She'll start alongside Brendan Chatley. Pat Harvey in the 67 machine is in P number 7. But Nicholas Hunter starting 8th. Rounding the top 10 starting positions, Dan McLaren and David Druckmann.
Then in 11th, we got Charles Sumner, the last of the guys to actually set a qualifying time. Adam Zemke will be lining up alongside him with Robert Bishop Jr. in 13th, Mike Caterina 14th, and Eric Robertson 15th.
That rounds out the drivers attempting tonight's race here at Homestead-Miami. Remember, the penalties, 2 caution points is the exact total for Robert Bashad Jr. He'll have to start at the rear of the grid for tonight's race, while Jose Tellez has been parked for the season finale after having 3 caution points built up after the race at ISM Raceway. Let's talk a little bit about the track details once again. This is a track that's gone actually a couple different reconfigurations in its history, the most recent being before 2003's finales. It's a 1.5 mile circuit with progressive banking from 18 to 20 degrees and straightaway banking of just 3 degrees. One thing people kind of forget as well with this circuit, the backstretch is actually a slight touch higher than the front straightaway, meaning in turns 1 and 2 you're technically going uphill, then back downhill through turns 3 and 4 before you pass by the fans on the front stretch. I can't believe this is in real life going to be potentially the last time in a while we will see this track host the season finale for NASCAR. Christian. Either way, drivers are all set to go here on this racetrack. It should be an interesting race. Again, 85 laps is your distance tonight. As the cars make their way onto the circuit, 85 degrees will be the track temp for the green flag. Sun is out on the track. Local time about 6:28 p.m. as we get all set to go for the green flag for tonight's racing action. Humidity should not be a factor. Wind, not a factor as it's facing towards the backstretch fencing as mentioned at the top of the broadcast. The question is, who's going to take away the final checker flag of Season 4 of 2019? Christian, you had mentioned before Rachel Hunt, a driver you keep an eye on. Who else are you watching for tonight to perform? And we apologize, it looks like we may appear to have technical difficulties with Christian Challenger as the pace car starts to work its way through turns 3 and 4. Drivers all set to hit the loud pedal. As the pace car's off the track, Paul Williams II in control of the field. Green flag is up. We're racing at Homestead. And already near 3 wide down the front straightaway after a checkout. Row 5 on back. As much of the drivers work on the top side. Paul Williams II locks lane to the bottom. Williams II electing to work with Danny Cervantes up on the top side. Lane working with Rachel Hunt as they're 2-3 wide through turn number 2, 3, and 4. First lap is in the books. Paul Williams II leads to start tonight's event. 14 drivers should note did take the green. We've seen Eric Roberts not make the start for this evening's race. Paul Williams II jumping ahead of the clean air, while Colton Lane jumps to second. And Colton Lane quietly one of the top drivers this season in terms of points performance, as well as finishing position. He wants to work this top line to start this race. Cervantes using that preferred bottom line throughout this week. 4 other drivers line up with them. McLaren, Hunt, Chatley. He also had Sumner there for a second lineup. Cervantes now lines up with McLaren back on the top side against the wall. Currently the lead advantage to 7/10 already in the first couple laps. McLaren, though, rides the bottom side by side off the exit of turn 4. And one of the main things to keep an eye on here, as we take a look at Rachel Hunt, it was talked about the opportunity for multiple lines to build up. That has been one of the trends when it comes to Homestead-Miami Speedway, regardless of the package. Throughout the entire week on the iRacing service, the bottom side good to gain ground, more so on the mid to long run. But the top line, because of that launch down the straightaways, has been able to use to defend for positions, and even, once again, the preferred passing spot. McLaren, though, wants the inside, battling with Colton Lane in the 60. McLaren, can he get the slide job? Yes, he does. Lane cuts back inside for the battle for second.
Lane might clear him in 3, but it looks like he's just getting a little bit tight on the bottom. Maybe McLaren will have a run on top. Doesn't look like he's quite there. Nope, Lane clears him, but McLaren's going back to the bottom.
McLaren tries to side draft the left rear. He tries to set it in hard. Lane tries to use the top side. McLaren, though, gains a lot of ground in that bottom, able to clear for second. Lane, though, wants to go for the switchback again. This was a common theme once again throughout the entire week of the service. Back and forth battles such as this. But the more they fight, the more Paul Williams II is running away in the clean air.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When you're fighting like this, you're hurting each other and you're just letting the leader... I mean, Williams is gone. It's going to be so hard to run him down, and there's contact now.
McLaren taps the wall. And that's going to affect the 73 a little bit. Some significant aero damage on him. Lane also got a potential touch. Let's take a look at that as they fight down the back stretch. You can see some decent contact. Thorbaning into turn 1. You can see Lane was trying to, I think, take a higher entry.
Yeah, it looked like Lane kind of realized that the laps were limited and just tried to run him a little bit higher, and McLaren wasn't really expecting it, and it's hurt both of them really, and Lane's been falling back as well. He ran a really high line in 3 and 4, and it just didn't work for him at all.
McLaren again got the worst of it aerodynamic-wise. Now both of them might be in a bit of trouble. Shatley is still trying to defend P3. Up on the top side, Lane, who does have right side aero damage from that contact, can't get the run he's looking for. That's forced Harvey and Mike Caterino to fight side by side. They nearly pinch each other.
Caterino is up a lot of spots actually. He's up in his 6th from 14th.
Remember, had to start at the back of the field. He did not put in a qualifying time. He is trying to follow the 67's dirty air on that white line. Gonna pick up a bit of ground, but Charles Sumner trying to bank it off the banking once again. Caterino, though, able to check him up a slight touch. But as it's all shaped up, Rachel Hunt has now started to gain some ground away from P3. She's up to 2nd, in part because of that contact, and in part because of fights such as, again, for 5th. 4th.
Yeah, but it's going to be very difficult for her to run down that gap. 2.7 seconds. It might not sound a lot, but on an oval, that's massive. That's going to take almost an entire run to get back.
And Lane's having some trouble now with that aero damage. We talked a little bit about the difficulty of turn 4, especially at this racetrack. And it seems like if you get any sort of damage, you will get very tight in that corner.
Yeah, and it already looked tight just naturally with the setup, and now it looks like partly out of choice he's running that high, but it just can't get any kind of speed off the corner compared to the guys around him, and he's now got that for the rest of the race, so it's gonna be a long afternoon, I think, for him.
Unless he gets caution, that's the main thing, to be able to even have a chance to fix things. Rachel Hunt was the fastest car on the lead lap last time by, however, 31.5. However, Paul Williams the 2nd, don't forget, he pulled away quickly with that pole, and because that fight for 2nd, he's got an advantage in front of all these cars by 2.2 plus seconds. Lost a bit of ground this time in 3 and 4.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me that as the leader, he's actually running that high in 3 and 4. He's almost up on the wall, and normally that's kind of not the place you want to be, but he obviously thinks it's working for him.
Yeah, you're taking a look at him right now. Last time by, and this lost him about 0.6 of a second. He rode all the way against the wall. This time, he's electing to go to the bottom side. Wonder if he was thinking, may as well try it? I don't think he was expecting to lose that much time. This time, he loses half a tenth.
Yeah, and that's a good point. With the advantage that he has, it is the best time to be trying things out, and I guess maybe that's part of his plan. He expects that Rachel will get to him, and then he'll have that knowledge of what line works and how to run it, so it could be a smart move in that sense.
Let's head back towards some of the fights where Pat Harvey has met Mike Caterino's rocket ship. That one car +9 from the drop of the green, make it +10. He's up to 4th position, and Caterino looks very strong. He is the fastest car on the racetrack at the moment.
Yeah, this is actually something that we've not so much seen from Caterino. We've seen that he can move through the field and he can have decent pace, but it's a little bit rare to see him as the outright standout fastest guy. But it's good to see it, especially coming from the back. He's completely overhauled his track position immediately, and he's one of the few cars to do that.
Yeah, you're seeing from the back bumper as Harvey tries to keep up. But at this point, there's another 10th gain by Caterino. Rachel Hunt picking up another 2/10 on the race leader. And all of a sudden, now in part because we're inside that tire wear position, we're seeing a lot of comers and goers. The drivers who start up in the front but are good on short runs but burn up the tires, going backwards. Yanni Cervantes is one of those drivers. Charles Sumner, who struggled in qualifying, is now moving up through the field as he's fighting hard for P6.
Yeah, and this group of cars that we've got for P6 is really tight right now. We see that Lane's in there as well, but he honestly looks like he's struggling the most out of this group. He's going backwards quicker than everybody else, and it's interesting to see that Cervantes looked like he was falling back a little bit, but now he's cleared Sumner, and maybe he was just saving a little bit, but he did give up a lot of track position right there.
We're also seeing Zemke also cut his way to the inside and pick up a spot for P number 8. And that leads to an interesting thought again. We talked about this a little bit. Tire wear is a massive factor, it seems, here at Homestead-Miami Speedway because it's a bit of a rough, abrasive surface. Kind of like Kentucky. If you don't get good runs either, especially like the grip, you allow guys like Zemke and Hunt to ride on by like that.
Yeah, very much so. And it's kind of a strange track in terms of the wear. It is very high, but it also seems to come down to how well you can run your specific line. Normally we see running around the top is really bad in terms of tire temperatures, but at this place we see some guys are able to run the top really, really effectively on a long run, and some others are right down on the white line. So it's a really interesting track in that sense.
Now, Pat Harvey is one of those drivers wanting that line all the way to said white line. Caterino, he looks like he's preferred at least a half lane up, if not more. You've seen a bit of that difference. Harvey was attacking that time for P number 4. Caterino, not as comfortable off turn 4. He was trying to match line to the 67 and give him some dirty air. He goes back to his comfortable line of lane 1 lane up from the 67.
Yeah, and that's definitely something really good about this track is that the normal line, so to speak, is 1 lane off the bottom, and what that means is that you, as the following car, do kind of have a little bit more freedom in terms of what you can do. You can get a bit of clean air on the nose, especially if you can run right down on the white line, and it does make it a very good track for racing.
It's been like that even back when this reconfiguration debuted back in 2003. But curious thing popping up, Rachel Hunt, she is a-coming. She's closed a gap to about 1 second near flat, and she's been doing it based on raw pace. However, she's about to reach the dirty air of that 7 car.
Yeah, as soon as she reaches up to pole, it's going to be really difficult to pass. The longer this goes, the worse the tires are going to be when she gets there, and the bigger the effects of the aero push. And this is where we're really going to see kind of any sort of crossover lines and so on, and how they're going to influence this. But it really does look like we're going to get a green flag pit stop in this race, which is a little bit unusual, I'm going to say, for this league. We tend not to see it very often, and I feel like that could really kind of throw something in there, because this is not an easy pit road.
Yeah, that's actually a great point, because we're nearly halfway through this fuel run. The max is about 50 plus laps in terms of fuel here. Compared to what we see in real life, you have to take the access road that's in 3 and 4. That's coming up on the left side of your screens right about now, where you see those drivers will have to cut around that access point and then get themselves down to speed on a slippery pit entry down to just 50 miles an hour.
Yeah, and it's a kind of a multi-part challenge, so to speak. Just getting it slowed down so that you don't slide into the grass initially is pretty difficult, and then the corner itself is flat. There's no banking at all down there. Couple that with the fact that you're trying to get slowed down for the cone that's right at the end of the turn itself, and it's a really difficult challenge. And I think the guys who can make time, or at the very least lose the least time on that pit road entrance, are going to move up through the field.
There's been some cases I've seen people gain 3-4 seconds based on being aggressive on the pit lane entry and making sure they don't lock up, because there's the chance you can nose it into the wall. Still, the fights continue. Cervantes is trying to play defense still for P6. Adam Zemke, who started in the back, did not qualify. 5 positions gain in his NASCAR.com Superstore machine. This time a bit of a different look for the Chevrolet Camaro, going with the white paint scheme rather than the green.
Yeah, and he's doing a good job. He's up a number of spots. He's not quite made the inroads that Caterino has, but he's still having a solid day right here and running inside the top 10.
And you can tell that the drivers who didn't get the chance to qualify or were not allowed to qualify, it seems like they've been very comfortable. The drivers that burned up their equipment early in runs or have gotten aerodynamic damage by being too aggressive early, they're now in the back of the pack, either 11th on back, because Lane, Sumner, McLaren, and Hilton are 11th through 14th at the moment.
Yeah, it looks like some have definitely suffered more than others. I don't know whether they just ran their tires harder or what. And what we're seeing now is we've got a lot of kind of little two-car groups going around as it's getting harder and harder to pass, and that's kind of what's causing this, is that the lead car in these two-car packs is obviously falling back a little bit, and then the car behind is quicker, but it's so hard to get any kind of run. It's just creating these mini packs around the track.
And it becomes a conundrum, too, where if you, say, lose your tango partner, so to speak, the pace difference without the draft can also be fairly significant. Hilton, he doesn't have a draft partner. He's right now half a second slower than even McLaren.
Yeah, that's definitely true, and that's kind of one of the oddities of this package, actually, that you kind of have the downsides of the aero push, which are really frustrating from a driving point of view. But if you end up out there on your own, especially on a restart, you can actually get unhooked from the pack quite easily, which is something that we've really not seen at all until this year with this package.
The Wabash College machine always fights, and so far they are looking for a chance to fight. Speaking of fights, Pat Harvey, he's been reeled in by the 25 all of a sudden. He has dropped back from the back of Mike Cantarino, and he is now starting to struggle. Remember, he was one of the cars that were looking to paint the white line rather than stay a lane up. Looks like might have burned up his stuff a touch.
Yeah, it looks like he's just losing a little bit of pace right now. He's still committed to the line. He doesn't look kind of out of sorts or anything. He's just lost a little bit of pace compared to the guys around him. And we see Zemke's going to have a bit of a run. He's going to elect to try the bottom in 3 and 4.
And it looked like Cervantes was actually quicker to the apex of 1 and 2 on the top side. So Harvey, he is starting to have a bit of a problem. Zemke is gone light on by. Robert Bichon Jr., who had to start from the back of this grid tonight, he is now within spitting distance of trying to battle for this 67 for now. Key number 7 elects to take the same line. And it looks like Harvey, he's realized that bottom isn't working as well. He moves to the middle this time.
Yeah, and it definitely looks like kind of his mid-corner speed just isn't quite as strong as the others around him. I don't know whether he's just not able to carry the speed in, and he's just struggling with the tight, but he's definitely losing out in the 1 and 2 end of the track. 3 and 4 a little bit, but mainly it's the 1 and 2 end.
And it looks like Dan McLaren, remember, he got significant damage from that door check from Lane. He's elected to pit very early on lap 32. He was losing the draft quick and was struggling with pace with that aerodynamic damage. Without a caution, that damage is going to stick the rest of this race, and it was hurting him badly. Hunt, meanwhile, she is hunting down the leader. It's down to half a second. The amount of time she's been gaining each lap isn't the tense and major time it was before. But Christian, it's been while minuscule, enough to slowly but surely eat it on down.
Yeah, and she's really just sort of pulled herself into contention, especially for the pit stops coming up. Not quite yet for the lead pack. He'll probably pit just around about halfway, but it's about just being there, you know, especially with the pit stop and whatnot. And if you're within a second, you're really in play, and it gives her options. And she doesn't even necessarily need to pass him before the stop, but just kind of be there and just be a factor in kind of how he approaches his pit stop. He might be a little bit more aggressive than he otherwise would have done, say, when he had that 2-second gap, and it just gives more presence for her.
And we're just entering the safe fuel window for this race as well. Now that becomes the question of, what do you do if you're these teams for strategy? Do you go all the way to the empty? Do you try and split the race in the middle? Or do you try an undercut?
I think that really depends on kind of how the performance of your car is right now and where you are in one of these little mini packs, so to speak. I think if you're getting held up, you definitely want to take a look at doing the undercut just to gain yourself a little bit of track position, because as the run goes on, the harder it is to pass. And we see here Zemke he's moving up, but he's not moving up as quickly as he was near the start of the race.
He was trying to go on the inside of Cervantes about a couple laps ago to try and make a pass. Couldn't make it work, however, as that top line is really rubbered in and has become more of the quicker line. As this race has progressed, Zemke trying to get a ramp this time by, able to gain some ground down the back straightaway, but not enough to make a move on that 25 machine. So drivers are trying. It's just a matter of needing to get the right run at the right time. By the way, Dan McLaren back in the racetrack, 2 laps down. He repaired all his damage. 51 seconds in the stall as you look at the cars down the front stretch.
Yeah, I think that's a play by him to try and hope for a yellow and then a subsequent quick yellow afterwards just to get him back on the lead lap. And we saw that the damage he had really did take all the pace out of his car. And I wouldn't normally advocate for going laps down, but I don't really think he had a lot of choice. It was going to be miserable for him to keep going with all the damage he had.
Yeah, he elected to take the speed. He was just around the edge to make it with the 2 laps down. So now it's about hoping for a caution to get 1 lap down and then lucky. Battle continues between Zemke and Cervantes, but there's a car that's about to pop in towards the inside potentially. 97 Robert Bashad Jr. is just inside the wake of this 21 machine.
Yeah, Biso Jr. has kind of pulled up onto this pair as they've been battling, and he's not really made for any moves yet, but Zemke was a little bit tight off of 4 and just lost a lot of momentum there. And maybe Biso is going to have a look before the stops, but I think what we're going to see now is everybody knows that there's a stop coming up in just a few laps, and maybe they're happy to not fight it out at this point. Everybody's got old tires. Everybody's kind of just feeling it out.
Speaking of the old tires, let's go back to second for a quick moment, because Rachel Hunt is falling off a cliff with this package. And I think you might have noticed as well, the final 10 laps of a run, you end up losing another 0.3 to half a second, sometimes a full second a lap depending on the racetrack and pace. Hunt has reached that cliff. She is 0.2 to a tenth of a lap slower than Paul Williams II now. She's electing to go for the undercut now.
Yeah, there's a smart decision by her. Obviously losing out the longer they went on, so might as well roll the dice and come in early. But seeing that and seeing how she was falling back, it definitely gives the advantage to Paul Williams, because if he runs maybe a couple of laps longer, he's definitely going to have a tire advantage over her come the end of the race.
Also, we've seen Chatley follow her in, and that was an aggressive pit entry for that 59 machine. And you mentioned, if you get a good pit entry, you can gain some time. Chatley gained about 5-6 car lengths by outbraking her to the commitment cone. Both of them are inside their stalls.
Yeah, it was a really good pit entry by him. It didn't necessarily look like Rachel's pit entry was slow. It just looked like Chatley's was really good.
And that might put Chatley in the conversation later on if he can keep up with that 16 machine. Both are out and away. We're also seeing Williams II match the strategy. Zemke, Harvey, Hunter, and Sumner have all also just ducked down to the pit lane.
And this is really going to set the tone for the rest of the race now, depending on where.
And a major mistake for Zemke is also seeing him cross the pit line by about half an entire stall. He'll lose some time in the 21, but it's going to be interesting, as you mentioned, to see where will Paul Williams II cycle. He is off and away. Rachel Hunt is still crossing the start and finish line.
And I think Rachel is going to be just behind, but she is going to have a lot more momentum coming on in the backstretch compared with Paul, so she's probably going to pull right up to him.
You can see from the back bumper of Williams II, that little blip you see there, that is Rachel Hunt. With the fresher tires, Paul Williams II up in front of the 16 machine. Now it's going to be the question of, can Rachel Hunt close in despite the lap older tires? She has been the quicker of the two drivers from laps 10 through 20 of a run.
It's going to be critical, really, for her to pass him if she can as soon as possible, because with that lap difference in tires, that's definitely going to swing the advantage towards Paul Williams towards the end of the run.
Matt Caterino's ducking in this time by. He's one of a few drivers who have elected to try and stay out. Cervantes, Bichot Jr., Colton Lane, Barron Hilton are all yet to pit. Caterino, as mentioned, has just ducked down to the lane this time by in his number 1 machine. Right now, most of the field is pinned a lap down, but he'll sacrifice the lead by the end of this stop.
Caterino's having a really good run. He's done a great job to get the track position that he has, and he's just got a solid stop in the box, and he was kind of in his own sort of bubble right there, so I suspect he'll come out right back where he was.
Danny Cervantes also coming into the pit lane here with under 40 laps to go now. For majority of the drivers, should note Hunt, Williams II have both unlapped themselves. Chatley about to do so, as Robert Bichon Jr. down the backstretch is going to pit this time by. Again, Williams II currently on the lead lap with Hunt and Chatley now. They'll now come through down the front straight away. As you can see, that 25 machine has already come into pit. Going to lose a lot of time to the race leaders.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how everybody filters out here, because we obviously had a couple of guys come right from the back who've now kind of equalized and have the same tires and so on. And it's a couple of guys are offset. And Bissor appears to have missed his box right there. That's going to really hurt, especially on the green.
Yeah, he slid his tires, had to back up and lost about a second or two. That's going to lose him potentially 1 or 2 spots on the racetrack as a result. He's off and away with his 4 tires and fresh Sunoco fuel. Now about 38 laps to go for the race leaders. Just Colton Lane yet to pit on the track. He is right now about 20 plus seconds ahead of Paul Williams II and Rachel Hunt.
I'm surprised that we're seeing Lane stay out as long as he is. He's looked like he's not particularly strong on the long run, and he's going to lose all of his track position right here.
I think it's a gamble too, because, well, first off, there's damage. Second, he's bobbling on his pit entry. But the third thing is, he's going to have the freshest tires in the entire field once he's done this pit stop.
That's true, and maybe that's part of his plan here. He saw that he perhaps wasn't a match for the guys he was racing against on the tires when they were equal, and maybe he's just thinking that he'll take the deficit in track position just to kind of give himself a little bit of an advantage and make sure that he's the aggressor towards the end of the race.
So with them up on the jacks, going to lose the race lead. Back up in front, Paul Williams II. He is up in front by 1 second as Lane is off and away out of his pit stall. So Williams II in the number 7 machine, the Integrity Digital sponsored car, is trying to pull away from Rachel Hunt on the slightly fresher tires. Was a touch quicker last time by. Is a touch quicker this time by. He was about a 10th quicker than Hunt. Chatley about 2/10 off of the race leader.
And interestingly, we see that Zemke's actually jumped ahead of Caterino. Caterino's got 3-lap fresher tires and is significantly quicker, but it's been a good move by Zemke to pit kind of a little bit earlier out of the guys around him and gain all the track position and put him back up into the top 5 fight.
Here's the interesting thing with this call as well. This potentially could maybe get him up to at least 6, because Cervantes is not as quick as him. Harvey is not as quick. Caterino, however, has been in front of that 21 much of the race. That battle is about to heat up just in turn 1 and 2, because those cars are nearly on top of each other. Let's head towards that direction. You see Zemke, you see Caterino on the fresher tires. Last time by, gained 2/10. He was able to use the bottom. Zemke trying to use the way bottom side. Might give Caterino a little bit of space as he tries to slide up. Caterino drives right onto the inside line of the fresher Goodyear Eagles.
Yeah, and Caterino's got a substantial advantage at this point, and he clears him quite easily in the middle of 1 and 2. Kind of restoring the status quo here. Caterino is really kind of in his own bubble here. I don't think he's got the pace for the top two. We do see that Chatley's in front of him by a significant margin, but Chatley was one of the earliest pitters as well.
Yeah, I was about to actually mention this as well too, though, with Zemke. That's about 3 seconds away from the next string of cars. Cervantes, Harvey, Sumner, etc. If they start to fight, there's a chance Zemke comes away with what is looking at least a top 5 position and top 5 finish rather.
Yeah, and I think that was really his plan, just to pit a little bit early and get himself out ahead of that group. We did see that he was in that fight with those guys near the start of the race, and it was difficult for him to get through them. So it's a good track position game for him here.
Speaking of the fight, here's one of them we were just talking about, Sumner, Bashad Jr. Sumner up on the top side, trying to get the run. Bashad Jr. trying to outbrake on the inside. Remember, that 97 lost some time in the pits. This time makes the move. He has fresher rubbers compared to the 2 drivers around him. Sumner trying to get a run. Don't know if he's going to be able to attack right back. But quietly, David Dreckman stays within the conversation for a battle that's now going to form up for 9th because Sumner goes up the hill.
Yeah, we see David Dreckman's going to have a pretty good run on him here. I don't know whether he's going to be quite close enough into 1 and 2 this time, but he's definitely going to have an opportunity into 3 and 4.
The Area 51 Proving Ground driver, not as quick off turn 2, however. Sumner just able to get a better launch, timed up the throttle input a bit better. Dreckman, it looked like, just checked up.
Yeah, it looked like he just couldn't roll the middle of the corner as good as Sumner, and he would have had an opportunity had he been able to match, but just not quite able to do it and falls back just a little bit.
Yeah, right now, this gone by, it was Bashad Jr. who was the fastest car on the racetrack, a 31.398, half a second quicker than the drivers behind him in Sumner and Dreckman. You see him because he is now ready to attack the 67 of Pat Harvey, who is also on some of the oldest rubber in the field. Remember, majority of the field hit lap 40 to 41, trying to match the strategy of Rachel Hunt, knowing about that 10-lap final stint fall off on the tires.
Yeah, we saw him lose out a lot with missing the pit stall just a little bit, and the frustrating thing with that is you don't have to be far off, and then it's really a bit of a fight to get it kind of back into the alignment that you need for the box, and he's having to come back from that right now, and he's got a decent amount of time to make up now to get the Cervantes.
PRL sponsored machine with associate sponsorship from Splash and Go Graphics. Looking like a rocket ship, pulling off and away at 31.5 this time by. However, Danny Cervantes is still 2 seconds up the road. Zemke, however, he has fallen off the map in that 21 car. Because he originally, remember, was looking at a decent spot, was 3 seconds ahead of guys like Cervantes. Since he left by Caterino, though, he's fallen to the 32 flats.
Yeah, we've seen actually the leaders are also in the 32 flats, but they did pit a couple of laps earlier than Zemke, and I'm surprised that he's actually fallen off kind of at the same rate as they have, even though he's got a little bit fresher tires. That said, the guys that are catching him have substantially fresher tires, so that's definitely going to be a factor in that.
Absolutely, but I think maybe Zemke might have thought, usually the tires can equalize out. The thing is, when it comes to fixed setup racing, they don't quite equal out as much as, say, an open race setup in that middle portion of the run. And Zemke is learning that again here at Homestead, while Paul Williams II pulls away, still more so on the fresher rubber, just 1 lap distance between Williams and Hunt in terms of pit stop times. That difference has swung him as the faster of the two.
I definitely think it's going to be difficult for Hunt to do anything against Williams now. Like you're saying, he's got that 1 lap tire advantage, and as you were saying as well, when it comes to open setup racing, there's a little bit of a car factor in there as well. You see some setups are definitely going to fall off a lot harder than others, and then you do get that effect of the equalizing out definitely earlier than we see it in the fixed setup races. And as we're seeing here today, it's just a case of that one lap is just a constant advantage really all the way through the stint, and he's slowly extending that gap back out.
Dreckman, meanwhile, he wants a piece of Sumner, specifically P9. He wants that 9th place position. However, he's just been trying, it looks like, to get away from the dirty air of Sumner, especially in these corners. But as soon as he starts to get a whiff of it right about there, he seems to just struggle to get back on the throttle, apex off.
Yeah, it looks like he's just lacking a little bit of confidence in how the car's turning in the dirty air, and we saw it earlier where he had that opportunity in 1 and 2 and just didn't roll the center really the same as Sumner did, and so fell back. And he's definitely faster on raw pace, I would say, but it looks like with the car ahead of him, he's just struggling to find a line that's going to allow him to actually get the run he needs to clear Sumner.
I'm surprised, though, here, Christian, that he hasn't moved to the top side in this. He's consistently stuck to that bottom line.
Yeah, and I think that's potentially a driver thing as well. We see some guys really do not like running the top, and just with kind of his car positioning, he looks a little bit hesitant, and I feel like that's got to play into it, that he's just lacking a little bit of confidence here, and that's why he's not trying out the top. He probably just doesn't feel comfortable running up there.
And Dreckman again struggling a bit there. Cervantes, though, has reeled in Zemke. And it looks like the pace is even up because Cervantes is now in the dirty air. Bashot Jr., though, is coming in quick on both of these cars. 25, getting a better run off of turn 4.
Yeah, and I think it's really only a matter of time before Cervantes and maybe even Bissell Jr. actually gets clear of Zemke. I think it's pretty clear that Cervantes is going to get him. It's a little bit up in the air as to whether Bissell is going to get there and have an opportunity, but we do have 20 laps to go, so he's definitely got the time.
Zemke dives into the inside once again, climbs up the hill. He has to burp the throttle at 155. Compare that to Cervantes, who was able to carry 5 miles an hour more speed. Tries to gain time in the Class C Vape Company machine. Just can't get out of the dirty air, however, as he now tries a different line. And he's got to be concerned, though, because this is going to turn into a 3-car scrap in about a lap or 2.
Yeah, that's the thing, that Cervantes really needs to make this happen, because he does have fresher tires than Zemke, but Bissell's got fresher tires than him, so he needs to get this moved on and really hope that Zemke will hold it Bissell and allow him to build a little bit of a gap.
This time, Danny's got to run. Danny takes it to the high side this time. That high side, especially on apex off, has been decent. Zemke, though, slides up. Cervantes, though, has him where I think he might want him. Tries to get a run down the backstretch. Not enough, though, to make a move. And here comes Bishot Jr.
Yeah, that was interesting through 1 and 2 with Cervantes. I really thought he was going to have it. Oh, he actually hit the ball on 4.
He had some damage a little bit before, adds a little bit of more. Saves it off in the grass. We stay green with under 20 laps to go. Let's take a look at this as he barely tapped the outside wall off of turn 4. Just enough, though, to swing him hard left.
Yeah, and I was actually going to say that he didn't look that comfortable in 1 and 2 running the top, and then 3 and 4 is even harder to run the top, and he just about grabbed it, and it really does turn you down the track when you do it. He did a great job to keep it out of the inside wall.
He drops all the way to 7th position. That is the spot Bishot Jr. was in, and lost 2 seconds on top of that for that spot. It's going to take some time to get back up to Zemke. By the way, the battle for the spot is still up, though, because Robert Bishot Jr., he is now a 10th quicker than the 21. He now looks to try and pass the NASCAR.com Superstore car.
Yeah, and we'll have to see if he kind of has the same issues of passing Zemke as Cervantes did. One thing I've noticed with Zemke is he's driving really, really deep into the corners, and I think as a solo car, it's hurting him. But when he's fighting for the positions, it actually looks like it's helping him.
I wonder if he's, knowing what's happening here, is trying to use this dirty air a little bit as an effect, or if it's the tires starting to get towards that evening point a little bit more.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking. Maybe he's just banking on driving into the corner and really crossing that line and slowing him up that way. as we see again coming off a 4, he really drives into the corner really deep and comes off higher than Bissell, but it doesn't hurt him. He didn't lose out on exit like you would normally think.
Yeah, all of a sudden, he's found something that works because Robert Bischoff Jr. was only about half a tenth quicker last time by and is not able to reel him in down this back straightaway. So it seems once these cars have started to reach the back end of the 21, that's where the pace is falling off of the dirty air. Zemke, though, makes a mistake, pushes a bit too much. Here's an opportunity for the 97 machine. He's got the run heading hard into turn 1. No, he elects to back off and check up.
Yeah, and again, we see right on the corner entry, Zemke actually just drove away from Bissell, so he's definitely driving into the corners a lot deeper than the other guys around him.
Much more deeper. And even with the difference on the exit speed, we're going to see a caution flag. Caution is out. Dan McLaren has spun out on the front stretch, and this changes everything. The 73 machine hit the wall through turn 4, and overcorrected into the outside fence and spun on the front stretch.
Yeah, unfortunate to bring it out of yellow for that, and I feel like he's going to feel pretty bad about that one. He was running 2 laps down kind of on his own and just sort of ticking off laps at this point.
See on board, just getting too close to the wall. Tries to correct it to the right. That immediately swings into the fence and brings up the caution as he locks it up in the middle of the racetrack. But man, oh man, Paul Williams II is probably thinking, are you kidding me, Dan? He was in the lead by 2.7 seconds. Now, it could go to anyone.
Well, that's the thing, and I think for a lot of these guys who kind of their positions were pretty cemented, like Mike Caterino and Paul Williams and Rachel Hunt, this really mixes it up for them, and in some cases gives them an opportunity for more, but definitely gives them an opportunity to lose out a lot here.
Drivers can't afford a mistake. Williams II gets on the side. Rest of the top 5 do as well. And this is going to be a potential chaotic start as well for the race win on the line. Baron Hilton is the lucky dog. McLaren does not get it as he was a part of that caution at the green cones. I believe might have been Williams II, but it was very close.
Yeah, we'll have to see how they filter out as they get onto the track. It looked very, very tight there.
Yeah, it would have been by about a nose. And yes, indeed, Rachel Hunt just going to let Williams II on by instead of letting that all sort itself out on the access road. Caterino came out 3rd, Shatley 4th. Zemke rounds out the top 5. But we're under caution for just the first time in a relatively clean race with 11 laps to go. We'll take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. You're watching the Precision Racing League NASCAR Cup Series for the season finale for season number 4 of the 2019 calendar year. Welcome back to the Global SimRacing Channel for tonight's coverage of the PRL NASCAR Cup Series. And we're about to have a potential thrilling finish to this one. 9 laps to go when we get back to the green flag. Only one caution flag. Paul wins the second in control of the field, but Rachel Hunt with the caution flag, and the rest of the pack are back in contention for the victory.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting on this restart. Paul Williams really needs to get away and hope that everybody behind him fights, because otherwise he's going to be vulnerable.
Pace car getting ready to head off turn 4. This is a very tight restart zone here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. Green flag's already up. Cars checking up behind Zemke as the green flag's off and away. Williams the second, a good launch. Caterino stuck side by side with Hunt.
And Caterino looking really strong, driving all the way down to the white line. He's going to clear Hunt on the exit of 2, and he's going to have an opportunity on Williams into 3.
Caterino trying to get the draft, cuts to the top side. Remember, drivers have been able to get runs down the front stretch on these restarts when we have seen them throughout the week here at Homestead. Williams the second, though, powers hard on the inside. Keeps the lead of the stripe, but Caterino gets to the outside.
And it looks like everybody's kind of forming up on the top as well for a bit of a run, but Hunt changes his mind and goes back down to the bottom, leaves Caterino out there on his own on the top side.
Williams the second, forced to check up on the inside. Caterino forced him down a touch. Hunt falls behind in the wings, trying to watch the lanes. Caterino tries to power hard. Williams the second tries to slide up. 7 laps to go this time by his right. Caterino takes the race lead.
And Caterino's been really impressive this race. He's had really good pace, and he's been especially good on the start of the runs. And is he going to be able to hold on the outside here? Williams pushes up and gets into him a little bit.
No damage for either of those race cars. A very slight touch. Caterino still holding the outside line. Williams the second, though, looking comfortable on the bottom. Rachel Hunt now following the 7 machine. They're still side by side as they continue to fight for the race lead. Again, Mike Caterino takes the lead lap.
Yeah, and if you're Rachel here, there's not really any clear place you want to be. These guys at the front are running so evenly right now. It's really, neither line's going to give you what you want, because neither of them has got an advantage, really.
Mike Caterino coming into tonight, just 2 top 10s on the season. This will be his best finish by far if he can hold on. He's able to clear by the 7, takes the race lead. 5 laps to go at Homestead.
Yeah, he has the lead, but the thing is that now, with Williams not being sort of pinched down on the bottom, Williams is going to have a better opportunity to build a run and maybe re-pass Caterino.
Fight building up for third. Hunt having to fend Shatley. She now holds serve for P number 3. Caterino, though, tries to block the inside of the 7. The 1 slides up. Williams the second trying to time it up inside the wake. The fans on their feet in the virtual stands.
The thing is, both these guys are going to want to win this. I don't think either of them has won a race all season, and Mike gets a little bit tight in 2, and Williams has got a great run down the backstretch now.
A drag race once again down the back straightaway. 3.5 laps to go on the season for the PRL Cup Series. Williams the second again inside, retakes the race lead. 3 to go at the stripe.
Now, will Caterino have anything to come back? I'm not sure he does. Oh, he drives it really deep.
Tried to give him the bumper. No contact made, though, with the Integrity Digital machine. Williams the second pulls away by car length. Rachel Hunt, though, still fighting hard for P number 3 with Chatley. Caterino tried to dive inside, forced to check up for the 7 car as he goes back in.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like Caterino's really got the opportunity to get a quarter on Williams, and Williams, now he's out front, is really in control here.
Here comes Chatley in his Ford, now drafting behind the 1 machine. Williams the second, good in 1 and 2. Caterino, though, has been strong in 3 and 4. Will he try and send it? White flag coming up this time by. Tries to charge the corner hard, closes the gap down by half a car length. Williams the second, though, watches as Caterino slides up the banking. White flag is up on the stand. Paul Williams the second has 1.5 miles to hold on.
Katarina's really under fire from Chatley right here. Zemke drives in so deep into one, nearly actually takes Chatley with it.
Paul Williams the second. Pulling away as the battle shakes up for second. He tries to go and break up the draft for both sides, tries to pull them forward. For Paul Williams the second. He came in tonight looking for his first victory. He starts on the pole, he finishes in victory lane. Paul Williams the second wins the season finale for the PRL Cup Series. Mike Catarino second, Brendan Chatley in a side-by-side battle for P3. Zemke, Danny Cervantes rounds out the top 5, and Rachel Hunt drops all the way to 6th at the checkered.
Yeah, it's got to be disappointing for Hunt there. She was second the whole race long, and right there, it just didn't really materialize on that restart.
Williams II has had speed throughout the 2019 Season 4 campaign. A couple top 5s, 5 top 10s. He didn't make the start at Phoenix, but tonight, he's able to show that speed and come away with the victory here at Homestead. Just basically dominated the field, led the vast majority of the laps this evening.
Yeah, he was always going to be difficult to beat if it went green, and I think with the restart, it was only really fair that he held on to it, and he did a great job racing Catarino. It was really close between them.
Paul Williams II wins it for Team 24/7 as his teammates congratulate him. We'll take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll have your post-race coverage. You're watching the PRL Cup Series live from the virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway on the Global SimRacing Channel. Welcome back, everyone, to the Global SimRacing Channel's coverage of the PRL NASCAR Cup Series. Tonight's season finale was an exciting one, but Paul Williams II in that excitement pulled away with domination. It took a hard charge fight at the end of the race to hold off Mike Catarino, but it came away with the checkered flag by half a second in the end. Brendan Chatley finished in third, with Adam Zemke and Danny Cervantes rounding out the top 5 starting positions. Zemke, one of the biggest movers of the night, +8. Rachel Hunt, she was in the conversation for the win much of the evening, got to as high as second. However, couldn't catch up on the long run, lost time before the pit stops, and then lost time on the final restart of the race. Robert B. Shaw Jr. rounded out the top 7. He started in the back. Colton Lane finished in 8th, with Pat Harvey and Charles Sumner rounding out the top 10 finishing positions tonight, Christian.
We had Nicholas Hunter in 11th, a bit of a quiet night from him, started 8th, but they had a solid job. Baron Hilton started 4th and fell to 12th, just didn't quite have the race pace that he did, compared to his qualifying pace. David Dreckman, he came home 13th, a little bit off the pace, and then rounding out 14th, Dan McLaren just had a troubled night all night long, got damage early on, and ended up finishing 5 laps down. And then Eric Robertson did not take the green flag.
That rounds out the finishing results for tonight's race. An exciting one here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. And for Paul Williams II, his first win of the season to end off the campaign. Paul, dominating victory, but you had to work for it at the end of there. How do you feel?
Yeah, sure did. Feels good. Happy to win in the Cup Series. Pretty exciting. Got my first win here in my first full season here with these guys. So, but I was a little worried there at the end that I did not want to see that caution. I'm not really sure what that was about. I'll have to go back and take a look at that because that could have really messed things up. But Mike fought me hard there at the end, and we traded blows a couple times, not unintentionally, just going for the win. And I was glad to not let it slip away in a situation like that. So it was good to bring it home.
How difficult was it to try and hold on to that? As you mentioned, Mike Caterino fought you hard to try and get the victory for him as well. Well, how difficult was it from your end? Because you had to hold off, not just him, but guys like Chatley, Hunt, Zemke, etc.
Yeah, it was it was really difficult. I'll tell you, in the beginning run, when I got out to a huge lead, I was a little surprised. I'm typically not very good here. And Rachel closed that gap, and that wasn't me holding back. That wasn't me saving tires. I was looking at that deficit going, what is going on here? And I started searching all over the track. So hats off to her. She ran real good. I ended up finding out what I was doing wrong and was able to pull back away a little bit. But at the end there, yeah, I mean, I was trying to strategically drop down, give drafts to others and do what I could to try to keep them battling each other. But I wasn't so sure. I was pinned on the bottom, which was fast, but not when you're battling somebody. So it was a well fought but earned victory. So I'm really happy I came out on top.
Why don't we look back to something you just said in that answer? You said you found out what you were doing wrong. What were you doing wrong, and how did you fix that problem?
Yeah, so I just wasn't getting low enough in 1 and 2. I thought it was going away faster than it was. So, I was able to tell by my times, by my splits, that if I was dropping down about half a car length lower, and I noticed Rachel doing that in my rear view as she got a little closer. And I said, oh, wow, okay, I didn't think that would stick. And sure enough, it did. So that picked up some time. And then it was just easy on the throttle in 3 and 4. I just found a place where I knew I could stick it and it would rotate, and that really was the difference. And then I started pulling away.
Indeed, you led the most laps today. Led every single lap except for during the pit stop exchange tonight. But it's the season finale. How would you describe your first full season in this series?
Yes.
To finish off.
Yeah. Super proud of what Josue and I were able to do 24/7 Motorsports. Josue couldn't make it tonight because reasons. He's had some issues, so he was not allowed to participate tonight, understandably. So, but given that and knowing what we're up against, we came into this league. These guys have been together a long time. They're sister teams. They're strategizing together, and that's fine. We joined this league because we like it. But when you think about it from that perspective, and there's 2 of us, and sometimes just 1 of us against a larger group like that, trying to fight through traffic, trying to do those things, it makes me really proud that we were able to, I think, it's hard to tell with the points, but I think we'll end up, in the top 5, top 7 or so in points in our first season. Really happy about that.
Yeah, Team 24/7 came in through tonight in the 4th position. Good overall performance for your group in your first season. Is there anyone you want to thank, though, before we let you go tonight?
Yeah, definitely. I want to thank you guys. You put on an awesome broadcast. We watch it every week after we compete, and it just makes it all that much better. I want to thank the PRL, Charles, Brad. It was a shame Brad wasn't here tonight. I always like measuring myself up against him, but awesome organizer of the league as well. And my teammate, Josue, gives me a lot of support throughout the season. So, looking forward to continuing on the seasons to come.
Congratulations on the victory tonight. Go celebrate. That was Paul Williams II coming away with the victory in dominating fashion. The man who came away third, though, he was trying to follow lockstep with drivers like Rachel Hunt and strategy much of the evening. Brendan Chatley, he's standing by with Christian Challoner.
Brendan, you started 6th and moved into 3rd, and then you kind of ran there the entire night. It looked really solidly locked into that spot. What were your thoughts on that yellow coming out at the end and how that was going to affect that?
I didn't like seeing it. I was just hoping to ride out 3rd, even though it was a pretty uneventful race for me there.
Yeah, it really did look like you were kind of in your own sort of bubble, so to speak, in that 3rd place. Kind of a quiet evening for you aside from that yellow, but you must be happy with that race.
Yeah, it's always nice to finish with the podium on the last race after, especially how my first half of the season went. Felt like I was caught up in a wreck pretty much every week. So to finish off the season with a 3rd, I'll.
Yeah, I mean, saying about that, and it brings me to my next question. I assume you're going to be coming back for the following season?
Yep, I'll be back for Sunday and Wednesday. Started a new racing team, Rescue Racing, with the Hunter brothers, and we're donating we're looking for donations and gonna donate whatever race winnings we get to our animal rescue shelters.
That's a pretty awesome cause, man, and glad to see guys kind of making that happen in sim racing, and definitely a cause I think a lot of us can get behind, and we wish you all the best with that going forwards. And just like to ask a couple of thoughts on your season and kind of what your plans are for next season.
This season, I guess the end of it was a lot better in the beginning. I was able to rattle off a couple top 5s here at the end. Next season, just going to continue, hopefully, to build on the top 5s and top 10s I had at the beginning or at the end of the Sunday and Wednesday series. So we'll see what happens.
All right, well, definitely good luck going forwards. And before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I'd like to thank you guys for putting on the broadcast like always. PRL, and then Nick Hunter for putting together this paint for I think in 1 hour he did it. So thank you.
All right, man. Well, good run tonight on the 3rd, and good luck for the following season, and we'll see you there.
Thank you.
And that was Brendan Chatley coming away with the 3rd tonight, one of his highest points-paying finishes of the season. And again, a good cause as talked about with that new team and that new look on the 59 machine. Now, couple things to note. As mentioned in the season finale, the unofficial results are in for both the team and the driver standings. Currently getting those all set to go here, but an overall strong season from Bradley Hawley, we have to note. Coming away with the championship. We talked about him locking up the championship with the start in the strong race at ISM Raceway last week. He is currently pending potential changes. Your season 4 2019 champion, and it was a dominating one, 7 victories in 10 races in 10 rounds of the season.
Yeah, he was absolutely the standout driver this season. He's a factor in every single racetrack, and took home a massive number of wins, and he was always the one to watch out for. So he wasn't here tonight, but big congrats to him, and hopefully we see him come back next season, and we see a couple of these guys step up to challenge him.
Yeah, it was interesting to see as well. 4 different winners throughout the season. Rachel Hunt also found a way to victory lane. Colton Lane for the second Waterback Fun Center driver found victory lane. We also seen Paul Williams II not just get into victory lane tonight, was able to get into the unofficial top 5 for these season standings with the victory.
Yeah, we've seen some standout runs by Paul Williams this season as well. The past couple of rounds, a little bit less so, but definitely kind of around mid-season, he had some really good runs, and I think if he can kind of hook together a little bit more consistency and maybe get up there and fight with Holly for the win a little bit more than he has done this season, he could definitely be a factor.
Here's a look at those unofficial driver standings, to be precise. 388 total points were gathered by Bradley Hawley in the season. With Rob Haynes not making the start and using his drop week By not starting round 1, he drops from 2nd to 4th in the final results. Charles Sumner moves up to 2nd, with Rachel Hunt finishing in 3rd position. As mentioned, Paul Williams II rounds out the top 5 for the driver standings. And as we talked about a little bit, unofficially the team standings were basically locked coming into tonight. Whataback Fun Center having the strongest campaign, constantly scoring 70, 80 points around.
Yeah, and that was really just a solid pairing all season, and especially with Holly winning as many races as he did. I think that championship was probably locked up the earliest of the two.
Couple things to note. Whataback Fun Center had the lowest scoring round tonight with just 35 points, with Bradley Holly not making the start. Redline Racing, Team 24/7, Whataback Ramrod, and Hard Knocks West rounded out the unofficial top 5 for the team standings. But a big congratulations to Bradley Holly, your Season 4 2019 champion for the driver's standings, and your team champions, Whataback Fun Center. A strong campaign. A strong season overall. Your final thoughts, Christian, before we say goodbye.
Well, I think definitely we saw the domination really of Holly, and it was great to really see how strong he could be. In past seasons, we'd seen him win a couple of races and so on, but this season he was absolutely the standout, and I think he kind of raised everybody up with him, because if nobody else kind of went and pushed themselves, they just weren't going to get to him, and it was clear how much effort he put behind it, and I think he was well rewarded with the championship. And we got a couple of others who have been exciting. Mentioned about Rachel Hunt coming in and being really fast and having that race win, and again tonight featuring, and pretty much always a factor, especially on these 1.5 miles. And I'd like to see what Paul Williams can do going forwards. Picks up a win tonight, and like I said before, he's had really strong runs, and I think if he can hook together a couple more strong runs, he can challenge for that title.
I think so too. It's going to be interesting to see what happens for the next season for the Cup Series, for the PRL. But it's time to say goodbye. We'd first like to thank you for tuning in throughout this season for exciting racing action, as well as tonight here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. It was an exciting campaign with some dominant runs, but some hard-fought fights throughout the entire field. We'd also like to thank the Precision Racing League for organizing this strong series, and their subsidiaries of different organizations throughout the different platforms. We also like to thank the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast. Listen up on your screen now. With additional thanks to Jude Lawn provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. We'd also like to thank the team today, Christian Schauner and Sean Ambrose. A heck of a performance for both of them. If you'd like to find out more about the Global SimRacing Channel, though, including its upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can check out our merchandise for sale at gsrc.storenby.com. Or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, one word, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head over to our YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button, as well as the notification bell, so you don't miss a moment here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. The next season will begin on December the 15th. The schedule is to be determined. Keep an eye on that. You can go to the Precision Racing League website to either sign up or keep a track of how the season is going, whether it's schedules, caution points, or standings throughout the 2019 beyond season, as going into the 2020 calendar year. We also have a number of upcoming races for other series listed up on your screen now, so check those out and mark them down in your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.